Got the audio glitch, everybody. Then I couldn't hear anybody, so no one had any way to tell me. It's okay. I had a visiting lecturer for my Tlingit linguistics class, and we were spending all this time looking at the video, getting it, and when he would write, it was backwards, because we got the camera close to the board. So then I found a way to reverse the camera. But nobody on the other side told me that it wasn't backwards for them. So then when it was right for us, it was backwards for everybody. Like, I figure out why nobody told me. Okay. Let's move back to our phrase book, and we'll continue working through some of these phrases. I think where we left off was we did come in and come here. Is that right? So continuing to move through these. And one thing before we move on, everybody can hear and all that good stuff. Monday, we're not going to have class. But you are all invited to totem pole racing. Isn't that this one? Yeah. Downtown at Kajahit. There's a place down there called Kajahit. Everybody say Kajah. 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 Tlingit ani ayabutsapu. Stikat way Tlingit aya. Kash ak haskuziti. Chage katika katika. Shak akhibiti. Kachay ginki ati. Heshinki kuziti. Dikak inaya pushagaw yesh peace da. Naka yesh kunak ituwushatini tin. Chawa ya kunak awagi dikat way beer. Peace aya. Kunak wushakoyach dikat kingitan. Dika aya. Yeah, it's aya. Kunak jushigir. Naka kus tunak. Yes, til kunak kinde budahin. Yubushaku adak. Qashku adak. Yakunak khat tunak away the ship. Yes. Ha. Chakunak to us to go kaja. Kaja kat aya. Kaja kak. What's just kaja? Kat aya kaja kak to us. Yewe abush haze. Yes. The joy de to wush the teen at aya aus. Kaja. Kakaya wucha kak. Taka aus the teen yacht. How? Ach ya kawu ach eat the sheep. Ya kudahin tak dakaya katkiach was. Ya stikatyacht kwani kunachki yes june. Ujit yos ne. Yet the tin aya yech shinditani aya of yech. Wushapu adach. Stick by heart, yan There was a time when the raven was fighting with his uncle over the tide, and he finally just pulled it way up and flooded the whole world. This is before there were any people. Heron was there, raven, his mother, his uncle. So the world floods, and he turns his mother into this little bird and flies up through the clouds. And then Raven flies up to the top of the sky and pokes his beak through it. He's sitting there thinking, oh, I just wish Kaja would come along. And what Kaja is, it's a dried kelp bed. So he just keeps saying, oh, how I wish Pacha would just come along. And it did, and then he saw it, so he landed on it. And after a while, he saw these sea otters, they were there too. And he said, hey, partner, yeah, pal, maybe that means buddy, maybe that means partner. He says, help me, I need some dirt from the bottom of the ocean. So they'd really go down and kept bringing him dirt and pile it up. That's how we made all the islands and all the mainland. But it was because of Pacha. So there's a place down there, Pacha Hit. On Monday they're going to raise 2 totem poles for you guys online. I wish you guys could be here, but I figured it starts at 11:30, so we'll just have no class on Monday. You guys could do a little bit of extra studying of some of these phrases and the nouns that we've been looking at, especially the nouns and verb that you have chosen. That's the game plan for next week.
How long do you think it's gonna go until?
A couple hours, probably. My guess is they're going to try and be done by 1 o'clock. But you never know. I'm not sure how they envision it going.
So when we say our noun and verb, is that the link on the syllabus that says language demo?
Yes. So when it comes to the language demo, I think it's that second week in October. So what you'll do is you'll stand up and you'll recite your words. You can use any methods other than reading it off of something. And so as long as it's not written somewhere, you can use some different methods that'll help you remember.
These are our first set of words.
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be your first code, it'll be your first 2.
First 2.
Yeah, so you'll turn one in.
Can I draw little pictures on a piece of paper?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And you could, I've had students who've drawn pictures on the board as they made a story, and that's how it helped them remember. So yeah, I'm fine with anything as long as it's not written down somewhere that really you just read it off. So you'll stand up and you'll recite your 12 words. So by Monday, by Tuesday, it's now Tuesday, you'll hand me another 5 nouns and 2 verbs. Don't pick nouns that we're learning already in our other packets. So make sure you look through those packets and see that you're not choosing one of those ones, including the new ones from the handout. So you'll stand up and you'll recite your 12 words, and then you'll give a short presentation on something about Tlingit language or culture. Anything of your choice. But it should last about 5 minutes altogether, your words and the presentation. It's not a formal presentation, so you're not required to have any certain number of sources. But if you're looking for subjects, we can certainly talk about that. Start talking about it next week, and I can suggest some sources and stuff if you've got some subject in mind. If you have no idea what to do, you can sort of talk about some possibilities. I've heard a wide variety of things from students talking about artwork that they do, artwork that other people do, the importance of cedar, how people become an ich traditionally, how the number 4 is important, Tlingit oratory. We can look, there's a lot of Tlingit stories out there that have been translated. I would rather that you didn't just stand up there and read something, but instead you can maybe show us what the story is and then just sort of give us a little bit something more about it. Tell us why it's important, tell us the things that were interesting to you about it. Under Mount St. Elias is a pretty good resource. Sergei Kahn's books are excellent. The introductions to the Downhowers, Hashuka and Hatu Naguvis are phenomenal. So there's no shortage of stuff that's out there. And if you have some other type of interest, we can just talk about it. Send me an email, talk about it in class. So those are the 2 components of your language demonstration.
It's a good war between Titus and Tlingit.
What's that?
That's in the book.
I don't know. I don't actually know of any. I know of a David Kancic tells a story in a YouTube video about when they walked over to Haida Gwaii. That was pretty fun. And that's where they got canoe making skills, I guess. So according to his version of the story, they traded the southern half of Prince of Wales for canoe making. That's a very neat story. It's online, you can look up. I can't remember what the video's called. If you scroll through the collection of fluent elders on that channel, it's David Katzig and John Martin. Yes, there's a bunch of videos out there too. You can watch one of the videos on, if you go to the UAS homesite that we looked at. I have a YouTube channel. A number of those videos have translations to them as well. Okay. Any questions? Everybody okay?
Something that I wanted to do, I'm having a potluck for my mother that passed away last January. But we're in Saxman, and what I'm learning through Shmadu is land speech before we go on to Tlingit land to ask if we have permission. I translate that into Tlingit, or?
Yeah, well, we can certainly start. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, so moving on to our phrases. Make this, I guess we can. Okay, so we're starting off with, oh, you came or you're here. How hot you good?
How hot you good?
How hot you good?
How hot you good?
So that how, it just means kind of like, well, right? So it's a pretty neat word, and that one and a wet are words that you should just have in your repertoire, because instead of saying you just say how, and then you just give it a pause, think about it for a second. It's a way to just sort of say, I'm still talking. Let me think about it. Which is very handy when you're first getting started. It sometimes takes a while to the next thing you might say. How hot ye at?
How hot ye at?
How hot ye at?
How hot ye at?
Yak egyoch satini.
Yak egyoch satini.
Yak egyoch satini.
Yak egyoch satini.
So we're going to start looking at some object pronouns. So one thing we learned already was yak egyoch satini. So that's it's good to see you. Yak egyoch satini. It's good to see y'all. So it goes from satin to satin, right? It to ye. So that's where we're going to start. Keeping our eye out for things like that. For now, we can just read it off the page. We got this phrase book, which is amazing. But we want to start figuring out how the pieces work eventually. Ach tu segu ich satine.
Ach du segu ich satini.
Ach tu segu ich satine.
Ach du segu ich satini.
There's a wonderful speaker from Tesla, Hachudahan, and she says, Gunashish ich satine. So nice. Gunashish ich satine.
Gunashish ich satine.
Go back to the book. Gunashish hat ye good.
Gunashish hat ye good.
Gunashish hat ye good.
Gunashish hat ye good.
Gunashish hat ye adi.
Gunashish hat ye adi.
Gunashish hat ye adi.
Gunashish hat ye adi.
Hande ijin.
Hande ijin.
Hande ijin.
Hande ijin.
Saying like, bring your hand over here. It's like, or a handshake or something. Qannu.
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 Qayqi.
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 So again, there's another verb that changes, but it's singular or plural. Handful. Yadukayaqajid.
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 Waydukayaqajid.
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 There's the yadu, waydu. Also seen ha, hande, and hot. Those ones are like the space around us. We've got ya, he, we, you. It's distance from the speaker, and then ha is like this vicinity that we're all in. Yadu dechtana.
Yadu dechtana.
Yadu dechtana.
Yadu dechtana.
Ah.
Ah.
And there's so many varieties of saying yes. Ah.
Ah.
That was flat. Cake.
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 Yake away.
Yake away.
Yake away.
Yake away.
Shikuzi.
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 So these are like really good phrases to just have. So like you see something that's neat, yake away. Or you see something, shikuzi. It's amazing. Ishan.
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 So we're getting into the realm of what we call interjections. Something you say quickly to convey emotion. And this one is used a lot for teasing, but it's also used a lot for really serious grief. You know, there's cry songs where people are just really crying. They're saying, Ishan. We watched a video at Tom Thornton's presentation of someone giving a traditional prayer. So before you went in the woods to pick berries, to hunt deer, who would you talk to?
Spirits.
Whatever you're hunting.
Hunting the woods.
Sometimes, but usually you're going to talk to the brown bear, right? Hutsieki hus, a lot of times what they'll say. Spirit of the brown bear, because you know that's the thing that dominates that area, right? So we were watching this, and she kept saying, "Ishandena we uhan, have pity on us." So it can also the root of the word really has to do with pity, being pitiful. It could be it's a verb root. It's an interesting verb root because ishan is usually verb roots are one syllable. There's a few of them that are multiple syllables, and this is one of them. And you can have like tushka ishan to really be feeling pitiful inside. Gasha ishan to have a sad-looking face. Ishan Dane, we were doing pitifully. And it can be used for teasing a lot, right? So somebody is whining too much because Alaska Airlines won't let them on the plane because they're horrible individuals. You say, Ishan, right? You're teasing somebody, right? You're just saying, you're really saying, don't be so pitiful. It's not so bad. So it's used a lot for teasing. And so, or someone will do something and you're laughing at them.
For like the zombie game going on next week, like every time I see someone turn into a zombie, I go, Ishan.
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 What's I do thok zombie?
Ikhi Pawu. Ikhi Pawu. Ikhi Pawu. Someone who's just bones. So, but it's also like such a heavy word. There's a story about a village near Takwan, and smallpox and influenza and other things really hit that area hard. People were just dying all over the place. There's a lot of little villages in between what's now Takwan and what's now Haines. And there was this one little village, it was just 5 or 6 houses, and they assumed everybody died because there's no smoke coming out of the houses. And then one day they saw smoke coming out of this house, and they said, "Hey, maybe somebody's alive over there. Run over there and see." And as the story goes, there was a woman in there with her children, and they were the only ones who survived out of those 6 houses. And they said she wouldn't cry in front of her kids because she didn't want them to lose hope. But somebody walked in and just saw the state of everything and said, "Ishan away," and that was it. It was just lost. So it's also something we say when somebody is really feeling grief. We want to reach out to them. But it's just showing how dynamic language is, right? Okay. Do. So that's when someone's doing something really kind of dumb, or when you're really teasing them, you're making fun of them, and that's how that was used quite a bit. It's just saying you're being ridiculous. Chuk. Some communities they'll say chuk. Chuk day. That means scram, right? Get lost, get out of here. So you got to know how these things work. In the right context, they're just fine. But in other cases, it can be extremely rude. We think of kinships with like grandparents on top. It's a downward thing, right? These are not things you say to grandparents. Things you say to kids and dogs, people who are younger than you. Unless but it's always, if you know that person, you can get away with a lot. If you know each other, you guys can tease enough. And it was funny because there's this phrase, forgive me. But we're using that like excuse me in English, which is such excuse me can mean what? I burped. I'm moving near you, right? It's not even like get out of my way. It's just be aware that I'm here, kind of. So it has all these interesting uses, which we're using that phrase for, which in the elders say, you're going to wear that out. You say that when you've offended somebody, done something wrong. I'm like, well, what if I want to get by and they're in my way? You say, I mean, get out of my way? Yeah, it's not rude if you said it like really mean, but if you just said it, so we're learning how the culture functions, and the culture functions differently. Like when we speak only in Tlingit on the phone, a lot of us, me especially, I don't know how to get off the phone. Because in Tlingit, you know when a conversation's over and you just go. It's like, Dekwaku. That's it. I'm going. Maybe just go. It's not a big deal. Okay. Hatla.
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 Or just Tla.
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 It's too much, right? Somebody took the joke too far. Just took it over the edge. When I first came here, people were always trying to try to never look down, or if people are trying to put language out there, I really try not to ever squash them. But they would put signs up that said "gla," and that "gla" sound does not exist in Tlingit. It doesn't exist. Like I saw someone, they had a license plate and it said "hot gla," and I was like, "What is a hot gla?" I realized it was hatla, right, with the gla. That sound doesn't exist really in English. Gla. So I said, I gla your gla. So gla. And this is like when something's too much, or if you drop something, you're just upset, or you're just teasing somebody because they're being ridiculous. And if you're in car cross, they say hatlo. 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 Sook. Actually, there's a question mark on there. I think usually when there's a question mark, it's suke.
Suke.
Do you want more? Suk would be like more, whatever this is, more. Whatever this is. Day away.
Day away.
Day away.
Day away.
And it's more like knock it off. Right? So again, you have to be careful in the right context, sure. But you can make some people upset. If I could really start with something. Hooch.
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 Hooch away.
Hooch away.
Hooch.
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 So it's all gone. So that could be context. You might say you're wrapping up your big speech claim. Hooch away, you. That's all of my speech. And that's just letting people know near the end. If a song is getting ready to end, they might yell out, hoocha! And that means the song is ending. If someone wanted a paper towel and you pulled the last one off yourself, you might say, hooch. It's all gone. I drank it all. It's done, whatever.
You had a conversation with him?
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to use on the phone.
Oh.
Hooch! And I would just hang up. Oh, my God, I'm get off the phone. And here we're trying to wind it down. People are on the phone. Oh, yeah, I can't hang up myself. Shouldn't that, aren't they motion sensitive? Doesn't have the same effect. That translates to, right? So like if somebody asks you something, you're like, so it means, let me think about it. Right? I'm going to answer you, but just hold on. Oosk.
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 Ooski.
Ooski.
Ook.
Ook.
So that's for something to be small, cute, and you can say ooski, and then whatever noun it is. Ooski-ya, right? Ooski, hoots. But there's different ways to talk about animals. Like I made a big list. Did we do this in here with like puppy and kitten? Right, you just put yeti after it. It's just like, boom, puppy, kitten, kit, calf. What's a baby whale called?
It's a cat.
Yeah, it's a cat.
That's ridiculous. Okay. Yay away.
Yay away.
Yay away.
Yay away.
Yay away.
Yay away.
So something about like real Tlingit oratory. Like if somebody's up there saying something, and if they're your clan opposite, especially, and you really agree with what they're saying, you just yay away. You just holler that out at them, even if they're speaking in public, especially if they're speaking in public. What that phrase does is it sort of gives the stamp of approval. It says, that is how it is. The other thing we do, like we learned how to say akwe, right? Like tas akwe, like away. Right? So you could say ye akwe,
Yeah.
ye akwe.
Yeah.
It's that how it is. Right? So if you're trying out some new phrase or something, you think you might have forgotten parts of it, you just sort of power through it and then you say, ye akwe. Is that right? Is that how it is? Yeah, away. And it's a good way to sort of just stay in conversation with someone who's speaking. Like you agree with what they're saying. Yeah, away. That's how it is. Ayach away.
Ayach away.
Ayach away.
Ayach away.
Ayach away.
Ayach away.
That means that's how it is. It's like that. That yach works just like the word like. Especially when we're using it in terms of creating similes. E.
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 Yeah. Hui.
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 Exhausted. Right? You used to do 50 phrases then. Hui. Brain is tired. Ha.
Ha.
Ha,
Ha.
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 So it's like you're mildly surprised. Right? Mildly surprised. Ha,
How.
ha.
How.
There's a tremendous speaker that was down in Ketchikan. And he would talk for a while, then he'd go, ha. Then he'd keep going. It was just like every 30 seconds or so, he'd say that. Sort of collect his thoughts. Ha-chukwa.
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 Chukwa.
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 So like, say you've got a kid and you're like, don't play with that, don't play with that, and then they fall over. Ha-chukwa. Like, that's what you get, right? It's interesting. This one you should actually underline the G. Aqana.
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 The context for this is usually like something has gone wrong. And it could be like lightly wrong. Like there's a story that they did in Yucatan, coloring book. Seagulls going all over the place looking for herring. He goes to the bank, they don't have any, so he goes, Aqana! Right? Like he's so distraught because he wants. So it could be funny, but also like if someone says, my brother just died, this is what you can say. Like, terrible.
Is there a word for oh my gosh or like?
Yeah, well, a good one is ha'eh. 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 Ha'eh.
How?
So you could say, it's like, holy cow. It's a good one. Just like general surprise, like something happens, like kind of surprises. It rhymes with what so you can have fun with that. Ha'eh. Wa'eh.
Can my gosh be used like positively, like my gosh, you're beautiful, or my gosh?
You could use ha'eh for something like that. Aqana usually implies like something, there's something bad. And you could say glah, something like that. It's too much. Yeah. Make it flattering. All right.
Flattering.
We're out of time. 5 words and a noun, or 5 nouns and a verb.
Got 5 words in the noun.
We'll keep working on jihu. We're going to shift to subject and object pronouns next week. We'll do introductions, plant names, all that kind of stuff. Bit of cheese.
Neighbors.
Just for the first one. No, never. Introduce yourself to